Hello. We had coffee outside, I think. Hello. Hello. So I'm Ellen, and I love money. And you guys are all decked out in the color of money. Hopefully, that's to welcome and attract profit and sustainability for all the projects you want to do. Yes. I mean, how are you guys doing? We're gonna try and make this as much fun as possible. We're gonna simplify this so that what we hopefully would be able to equip you with would be tools that you'll be able to use to pitch and to raise funds, money, for your projects. Cool? That's a science only way. Where's the rest of the young men? Cool?
Yeah. So, as you may know by now, my name is Katka, and I love fundraising. I mean, why do I love fundraising? It just gives me freedom to do the projects I want to make a better world.
Hi everyone, my name is Zamir from Teach from Malaysia. I love budgeting because when it comes to knowing your budget, you have the details in your hands. And when you speak to either your team members or to potential donors, they are so impressed if you know details. Otherwise, they just think you're just some high-level, goofy, kind of run-my-wild social entrepreneur. It's the details that really count.
Hello everybody, my name is from Vietnam and I love money. If you want to work on development, you have to love money because money talks. Even money matters, so I love money. So we will help you to have this kind of love also after this session. Thank you.
So you just want to make sure that you're awake, because we know it's getting into the afternoon. So today we will speak about budgeting, fundraising, managing resources, record keeping and reporting, and then we'll probably try to do an exercise. So right now all of you have this amazing idea of a project. You had a great tool today to learn how to structure your project, how to do your proposal. You already pitched some of the projects, and now you will focus on the finance, building your budget and building your fundraising activities. So in the end of this session, you're definitely going to have a plan on that as well. So budgeting. So as we mentioned, and as my colleagues mentioned, budgeting is very important. It's an overview of what comes in, what comes out, what all of the activities you need to consider when you are thinking about money and the planning for your project. It works because it gives you the freedom, as I mentioned earlier, right? So, and as my colleagues mentioned as well, it's really important to know what kind of finance is connected to your project, and also make sure that you kind of keep track of that, and kind of also take actions if it is not going the direction that you planned right in the beginning of your program or part of your activity. And then the challenges, we will talk about it. So actually I was hoping to ask all of you, since you have your projects, what or even what you have done before, what were the biggest challenges that you had to face while budgeting or finding finances or other financial activities? Oh my God, not everyone at the same time, please. Okay?
I was a director of the day. There was a junior. Yes, like the budget was about 120,000 Thai baht. So it's like $4,000, and I had to go and beg to the companies like, please give me money. The problem is they don't know how important it is. They don't feel like the student activity is important for us to do, and it takes time to explain Yeah, and we did some like, we had a file with activities we have done with the student uniform, but they still feel like we are just students. We're not gonna do a big project. We cannot finish it. Yeah, that's like the outlook of us. Yeah, that's maybe the problem at that time.
I mean, I would think it's one of the things that, when you're applying for a real project, the numbers don't lie, right? So, I mean, I think it's one of the easier things to talk about while you are talking about financing of your project, because if you really have the activities and you follow the process, it's really easy to prove it, which is really hard sometimes with other parts of your project, like impact. How do you measure impact? It's just so much a little bit more difficult than the finances. Do you guys want to add anything?
What about others? There are no problems? You guys have trust funds? No, really? No one's had issues raising funds before?
So maybe I will ask, can you raise hand? Oh, okay, there was a question.
Is there a mic?
Yeah, we can bring one.
This is one.
Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you. The question about fundraising is how can we get attention and the involvement from businesses? Because usually our audience is not their audience, so they don't find any area for their promotion and something like they want to get their products to the customers, but our audience is not theirs, so they refuse. So how can we marketing out projects, or how can we find the suitable or the appropriate investor to our project? Even though we do the community, they still want to get benefit from that. Thank you.
Can you specify what you mean, why they're not your audience?
For example, I provide training for a group of students, and usually we try to find funding from English Center, for example. And usually because the number of participants is small, so they usually refuse. However, when our group, the smaller group, they develop a project and the project work on a primary school or a secondary school, it's easier for them to get funds from those English center. So we have a problem with training courses. So that's it.
Okay, we'll definitely keep that in mind and answer it later once we get to fundraising.
Thank
Okay,
you.
perfect. Anybody else who has any challenges with the current projects? Or past projects?
Hi, I'm Alpha Nam, and my question is the way that we dealing with the sponsor, because I have the problem that when I ask for the fundraising, my sponsor asked me to change the project very much. For example, putting more advertising in our program, but I want to keep it as the plan at the beginning. So that's my question.
That's actually an excellent question. It kind of brings me to the point that I was hoping to put our colleagues from the Department of State on spot. And so if you have those questions, because they are reviewing those grants and those activities, I'm sure they will have some tips for you as well. So maybe later or in the end, we can have a blog with them and they can answer any questions you may have for them. So, there's no excuses. Any other questions? Perfect. And so, while the budgeting, so I have really struggled, and we spoke about it actually with my team a lot, about organizations. Many of them have their own budget, and it's really diverse. I brought on here on the slide just kind of really basic budget. It's not even connected to our programs, it's more like products. But it gives you really kind of the basics of the income, revenue, estimated costs, actuals, and actual total. So those are kind of really the basics, and then it really depends on what kind of activity you do, and you use on all your items. So I would like to really invite you later, once we have just kind of the workshop, or you will try to build your finance, and you can use the model of Bring It Back. So basically, you will use the same top, and then you will use all of the activities. So you will think of everything that will be involved in your program, and try to estimate of how much it can cost. And then I know that we don't know yet what are the actuals. At least that will kind of give you idea, when you give a pitch. If someone will ask you to say, well, that's great that you have this amazing idea, but what is your budget? And also, what are the creative ways that you could decrease the amount, or maybe be more flexible about finding other sources of the funding. So it can be through fundraising, it can be involving volunteerism, it can be partnering with other organizations, and much more. Now the next thing that we really want to talk about is fundraising. So fundraising is very exciting activity. How many of you have ever fundraised? Almost all of you, perfect. So now I'm going to speak about dollars. I know it's not your currency, but you have so many currencies, and I could really not talk about it, unfortunately. So we get a picture. So how many of you fundraise up to thousands of dollars, $500? How many of you fundraise up to $1,000? How many of you fundraised $5,000? How many of you fundraised 10,000? Thanks, Lonnie. How many of you fundraised more than that? Wonderful. So it shows you that it is possible. So I want to actually ask you, the ones who fundraised in the last row, would you like to share your experience? Can you mention how you did that and what was the project?
The ones who fundraised more than 10,000. A few and then method size as well.
Would that be okay? Okay, so if you can get it, can we get a mic? I'm sorry.
There's a mic somewhere around, right?
Can you come here? Actually, we're like more than 3, so we can hear all of them. We definitely have time.
So yeah, the project is basically for social and political science from University of Indonesia. So the project is to advocacy the policy in the environment sector. So we went to London and UN last year in February, and this all we went there by the sponsors, and then also we got money from those 3 things. The first one is to the sponsors like the bank and also the oil and gas company, and second one is we sell the books. So we have a called Green State community where they just recycle the papers, and then we bought from them like $5,000, $5, and then we started people with $50. It's not about the amount of the money that we got, because the value, because we sent them to the London to struggle to promote the policy and regulation. So that's better that people not understand about how to value beyond the book that you buy from us. So that's the thing that I do to get the total $20,000. Thanks.
Great. There are 2 people who want to talk to you. Okay. Right there. Great. It's a happy problem. Everyone wants to talk now. I love it.
Our program is called Environmental Journalism. Actually, we train journalists on natural resource management and transparent issues. So the funding we got was U.S. Embassy in Myanmar, because they have a small grant program up to 1.5. Then we get from yes.
Can I ask you, why do you think that you got the funding? What did you do well?
Because our program is unique to other people, because most of the program are run by other organizations was like only talking about, for journalists it's only like reporting, how to write a journal and how to get the story. But for us, we include environmental issues and natural resource management issues.
Good. And maybe one more?
This was done in 1995.
You must be one of for you.
When I was a young guy. I wish I can do it now, but people look at me differently. I cannot use the same strategy. It was fundraising to help the Bosnian We started talking to like-minded civil society organizations around the country. We gathered about 50 of them. We got all the major newspapers and TVs. We organized program. We do fundraising around the country. We collected 3 million USD.
Beautiful. So I was hoping to also mention my personal story. When I started to work on at non-profit called IIE, I worked on exchanges, and the program was not in such a great shape, and we were really rebuilding all of the activities. And one of the main goals was to fundraise. And when I started, I hated to talk on the phone. I really didn't want to fundraise because I really didn't believe like how and what it can do and can I be successful, because I really had a lot of fears that kind of to answer that question, why my project is so special next to others. But then I really kept kind of researching and did my homework. And I just told myself and said, well, you know, I work on this project, it's really important to me, and it can really be important to other people. And it's really important for me to share the story in the right way, so people can understand and can be associated why the project is important and how it's affecting them. And so my goal the first year was to get a budget to get over the grant and fundraising of $100,000. And I ended up being the most successful, and I got $500,000. And so on that level, it was just, you know, that I think it's important you have some goals, and in a sense also kind of motivate yourself that you set up realistic goals, and then when you reach them, you know, you can always succeed at, and you can really always go so much higher. I mean, I have so many colleagues who say, okay, I will fundraise $100,000, and they bring $100,000, and that's it. For me, it was always like, well, there are no limits, right? The sky is the limits. Well, if other person can fundraise this money, why will I not try to fundraise the money? And so I really would like to encourage you to think big and really try to be creative of how you can manage your budget as well as your fundraising activities. Now I want to ask my dear colleagues of their success stories on budgeting and fundraising. I know they're so excited to share.
The budgeting process, at least in Teach Malaysia, we had to do a 5-year budget process as well, because we had to think a bit more long term. And when it came to developing a 5-year budget, there were so many things you cannot predict, especially when you don't have any experience. So we had to rely a lot on looking at what other programs had done, and we learned from other programs, similar in nature and very different to what the budget would look like, what potential pitfalls, and then we created that into our budget. When we then went out to fundraise, I think I got rejected from so many companies. And I don't know about you, but in Malaysia, there are lists of big companies out there. Everyone goes and approaches them. And the ones that get approached the most are the ones that are hardest to reach, because they get so many requests, and why are you any different? We were quite lucky, because then it became, I worked before at PricewaterhouseCoopers for 2 years. And it was actually my network of friends that referred us to colleagues or to their business partners that then gave us our initial funding. But the biggest win actually came when we started getting a bit more media attention. And then donors were starting to come to us instead of us going to them. And then it was much more easier. So I took away from that, right, was that there's sometimes no point to chase after a donor which you think should be able to give you this funds, because it makes sense to them. This is aligned with their core strategy, etc. Why don't they give you funds? And when you do a pitch, you can tell in the first 5 minutes if someone's going to give you money. Don't waste your time more than that. Move on to the next person. Swim back to that candidate that said no every 6 months, just to keep on trying, but don't spend a lot of time with them besides that. It's a key takeaway. I think in the last 4 years, I think Teach Malaysia, I was trying to do a mental calculation. I think in the last 4 years, we already raised close to maybe 6 or 7 million US dollars.
not as successful in terms of financial scale as Teach for Malaysia, but I'd like to share an experience of a Bubuan League, of a state league. When the world is ridden with so many disasters, it's become to a point where for the corporations who want to be able to be visible in the market, they, not to their intention, but it becomes a little fashionable to see, okay, now we have the Haiyan. Before this, we had tsunami in Aceh. And for me, who worked in Aceh for the past 10 years, it's been more difficult because there are now more trendier disasters for corporations and sponsors to want to be involved in. When it comes to that, you tend to, what I didn't do was I forgot to think about the unexpected sources of funding. We tried a lot of things until someone, actually my brother, who said, sis, why don't you try crowdfunding? Why don't you try social media? And that was my first venture into crowdfunding. It's pretty much almost the same with the experience that you're about to embark on in terms of doing your pitch video. But what's fun about that is that you have the attention span of the first 10 to 20 seconds to bait your hook, to make sure that who you are transcends through the screen and get your attention and emotional tug. A lot of times I use the stories of the Achikis, real stories of them trying to raise funds for their products and services, and inshallah soon their product now will be in United Kingdom. Now this is a big venture for a region that does not have a stable internet infrastructure. They then also indirectly discover that the world out there actually now cares about them too, because before this they were a lot more enclosed. So these are unexpected sources that you need to think about and be creative about. And I think the less money you have, the more creative you become. That's a big takeaway for me. Maybe.
And so one of the things that I wanted actually, one of my colleagues, Liam and Zamir mentioned a little bit, but I don't know if you see the circle, but I will tell you. I believe you have the slide, so we can see that. When you fundraise and you get the money, right? You're super happy. And then what's next? I mean, I think it's really important to keep in mind, to keep your relationship going, to really don't forget that those people really believe in the project. They're part of your project. They're kind of like a partner. And it's really important that you don't abuse the relationship. Then you really make sure to thank them. And you really acknowledge the gift. You report back to them. You bring the donor closer. And so for a lot of, especially individual donors, it's pretty individual, right? So if there is a research or funding for cancer, they may donate because their sister had a cancer or because they know someone who had a cancer. And so I think it's really important to come back to them and to say, wow, we got $1 million 6 months ago from you. And I just wanted to let you know, I hope you will think them easy, kind of earlier than 6 months. But like I would say in the first month and say how it will impact the program. Something specific, something tangible. It's not kind of like, oh, thank you very much. It's more of how is this going to impact? How is it going to be part of my project? The second thing that I mentioned was reporting back. So for me, for example, when we got a funding, we had a funder who we asked for help or explain our project. He really liked it. He gave us really big financial contribution for 1 year. And so we just made sure that we kept track of all the year's activities. We kept them inviting him to our events. We did a piece about him in newsletter because we knew that he really believes in the cause and some of the activities that we did in our programs. And in the end of the year, we reported how did we spend his money, what kind of activities we did. And he got so excited that he funded us for another 5 years. So I just wanted to say that once you have relationships, it's really important to cultivate them and really go with a circle of send the thank yous to follow up and make really kind of know what's happening with the contributions. And as I mentioned, the outcome of that was bringing the donor closer. And many times what happened to us that if we had a donor who got excited, he will invite his friends to the events, or he will really want to have his friends as part of the project. So it's something that really kind of helps you building and sometimes maintain a little bit longer. I mean, I really, I'm not really a patient person, so I had to really learn to be patient. But I have to say it really comes back and it really paid off that in 5 years I could build a network that I never dreamed of. You guys would like to add to something?
Yeah, no, I think if there's only one takeaway that you would remember from this is that building the relationship. Go and meet people with money before you actually need their money. Be able to understand who they are as people, because really, a lot of the successes of some of our projects or our programs is because we are actually sincerely interested in them as people, not just because they bring in the bling, right? Not because we see them as dollar signs. And continuously to turn them into patrons or parents of your babies, of your projects, gives them that emotional attachment, and they will continue to champion your project, which means you would be able to retain them potentially as donors for quite some time. It's a long process. Fundraising is just not just one-off. It's a continuous seduction.
Just to add on to that as well, sometimes if you are approaching companies, Teach Malaysia being based on companies, there'll be a lot more there as well. Sometimes the relationship with one person doesn't work, so you take your relationship and you try to find someone else in there. One example is actually we had to get the buy-in from the Ministry of Education to launch Teach for Malaysia. We got kicked out like 7 times before they said yes. So that same thought about like building relationship didn't work 6 times or 7 times, and then it became a yes. So think about it and keep on trying, especially for your important ones.
Yeah, I just want to say that fundraising is really difficult business. It is really difficult business, and you need to have a lot of patience. And everything is related. I mean, we have great idea, we have a great relation, we have a network, but then money really matters. So everything is related, and from my experience, just a very small experience, so what I raised fund last year, I get great proposals sending actually to the US Embassy, and then I got the rejection letter, which is not really happy moment. And in that moment, a friend called me and she asked me how I am. And I say, yeah, I'm very sad because I have this great idea, and then I got rejection from the US Embassy, and how can they reject this one? And then my friend said, yeah, and what are talking, what is project about? So I mentioned about the project, and she said, well, actually, the British Embassy is, funding this kind of project. And believe me or not, after 2 months, I got big funding, multi-year funding from British Embassy and under the FID. So the point I want to say is that once you have great idea, once you have great proposal, don't limit yourself only to those you know. Get the stories out to other people as well. And you never know that some doors are there open and waiting for you. So don't give up soon. Never give up. Just keep continuing patient and go, and then let people know about you, and then you can get there.
So if I may just add 2 more before the youngster that was enthusiastic. Hold on. Waving at us. 2 points. So if the person that you approach do not give you the funding, there's 3 asks. The first ask is, do you have money from me? Do you believe in me? If he says no at that particular time, then you ask again, do you know anyone else? And that's to echo what he just said. Do you know anyone else who would be able to fund me or believe in me or is interested in this particular issue or cause? if it's usually is a yes, because they would have a network who would be in those areas. The third one would be, could you help introduce me? Because that adds on the credibility towards you approaching the third person. And then I think, what was the second one? Maybe we go to the answer. Yeah, you've been practically.
Exactly, it's very good. You are very successful for the fundraising. I remember when I first time get for my project fundraising officer, I have to propose 30 to the 35 the proposal in the stakeholder also company. It's very awesome because no one companies want to accept my proposal. They just make like, oh my god, it's good. Maybe I don't want to tell it to my friends, my teamwork. They will be like the collapse, their spirit and whatever. So I did what you're talking about that, It's sometimes it's very hard, even though you have a presentation for the CSR, corporate social responsibility. But oh yes, it's great. It's okay. It's one our concert together to give you money and talk to you later. And 1 week again, we call them. Oh, sorry, we cannot help you more. That's way it's very make us a call up. So, do you have another tips for us, especially for the company who have the biggest CSR to get their fund? That's make our project is very very truly to implementation to the community. Thank you.
We feel you, bro. We feel you.
Yes, I think all of us do.
The second point was, you don't really need multi-million dollars to start off your project. I started off 10 ringgit from Batam to Medan to start off a project in, now 10 years program to fund and empower more than 5,000 athletes with just 10 ringgit. You can scale up, and this is something that Zamir will continue to talk about, but sometimes you don't need that much money. Figure out what you can do now and then expand from that progressively.
Thank you so much. So, Japan is very good. You are very successful for the fundraising. I remember when I first get for my project fundraising officer, I have to propose 30 and 35 the proposal in the stakeholder also company. It's very awesome because no one companies want to accept my proposal. Let's just make like, oh my god, it's good. Maybe I don't want to tell it to my friends, my teamwork. They will be like the collapse, their spirit and whatever. So I did what you're talking about that, It's sometimes it's very hard. Even if you have a presentation for the CSR, corporate social responsibility. But oh yes, it's great. It's okay. It's when our concert together to give you money and talk to you later. And 1 week again, we call them. Oh, sorry, we cannot help you more. That's why it's very make us a call up. So, do we have another tips for us, especially for the company who have the biggest CSR to get their fund? That's make our project is very very truly to implementation to the company. Thank you.
We feel you, bro. We feel you.
Yes, I think all of us do.
Really quick, right? So that actually happened to me before, exactly. All of us had done this. I went to the competitor. Immediately just started quoting the competitor instead. Because sometimes like you do want to create value, and having competition for donors to your program will actually make that value happen.
And I also want to bring it on the other side. So we're just focusing on bringing money in, right? Fundraising. And here are the types of fundraising, and there are so many by now. And does everyone know all of them? No? Which one don't you know? Which one? Annual appeals. So annual appeals, it is that in the end of the year, and this will be really different in your countries, but I really like you to explore that. So in the United States, if you donate, you get tax break. And many times, there's a lot of fundraising activities in the end of the year because the taxes and the reporting ends in the end of the year, December 31st. And so there's a lot of organizations who do annual appeal and ask donors to donate because they know that if they didn't donate all year, they might be interested because it will help them with their personal financial situation. Or sometimes there's a membership. How many of your organizations where you have worked, there was membership? Anybody? So in the United States, a lot of organizations have a membership, so you can sign up as a member. And so there will be activities that the organization, instead of asking and spending a lot of energy, asking 300 people and saying, can you please donate us $40 for this activity? They rather create membership. So they will, for example, create events, or they will do talks online, or they're going to give some services for membership, provide some services. And then they decide that they will collect membership on June 15th every year. And so then they do annual appeal to basically, usually the executive director or CEO will send a letter and say, please consider to be our member. And I think it's kind of an easier way because once I would say someone gets on that train to be member, it's so much easier to kind of cultivate it and even have them as a resource, because you know if they become member, they are interested in your projects, they are interested in your organization. And then in 1 year, you can ask them again to renew, and it might be so much easier to ask the people who donate to you already instead of going in the streets and find someone new. Any other ones? Crowdfunding. Do you want to speak about it because you love it?
Crowdfunding basically is getting like a group mass to be able to contribute whatever funds, whatever stipends to your cause. So instead of getting it just from one source, you're getting it from a large group of people. It could be from the public, it could be from several organizations. So it's like, you know how crowdsourcing is? You're crowdsourcing for ideas sometimes. You crowdfund for money. Is that clear? And there's different ways to do this. You can do knock on doors, one door to another. You can use platforms like Kickstarter or Possible, Quick Pauses here in Malaysia, Pitching here in Malaysia, and I'm sure in a few other countries in the United States or Europe, you have the platforms that you could use who have a wide base of viewers. You could also use YouTube. So I know of a particular girl who wanted to go to college, and what she did was she sent out a viral marketing campaign of getting people to donate $1 for her to be able to go to college. So that's also crowdfunding. There's different ways to do it.
I think you see that on Facebook all the time, right? I mean, you see it with likes or you see it with donations. Have you seen that before? They'll be saying, if you like what this girl is sending as a message to her father, please like us. Do you see it? Yes. So the same thing is that people do that with funding. They have to say, people do that a lot, like on personal level, for example, and say, our daughter has leukemia, please donate us $1. And then it will be a million people from all around the world will donate $1 to set up her health bills or healthcare bills. But it can also be for events, or many times how it is used in the United States is for marathons for a good cause. So you can say, we're going to do 2-kilometer walk to support local hospital, and we ask you to donate. So it's not really a specific, you have to buy tickets or anything, you just donate how much you want to, and you set it to as many people as you can. Any others?
I have a question, but it's about the budgeting. My question is how to measure the cost of the unexpected cost.
Expensive, yeah.
And then,
that's a really good question.
Yeah, and then I need an advice. I think, do we need to add that unexpected cost to the proposal?
Yeah, so this is a really good question. So the question was, to really be hearing, how to deal with unexpected costs or in the budget. And so, does anybody have the answer? Right? So I would say it's not as easy because every organization has a little bit different template, they have different policies, they have different beliefs. In my organization, we will have set up percentage that we'll always include in the budget. And so there will be kind of two ways. If I did a program and I will bring 100 youth participants to my city, I will try to think of all the costs that will be connected to that. But then I could also know that there will be hurricane and one of my visitors from Malaysia will get stuck in the airport and will need funding for another 3 days somewhere in the middle of the country, right? And so I really try to kind of focus on the percentage of the project, and I will have that kind of as a buffer, as we call it. So then you kind of have always extra money kind of as a backup. I will never really have a budget where I will write all of my items as needed, and it just will be the bottom line. I will always have extra money there for emergency costs. And then it's really different, right? If I think the new fundraised, then you have to really calculate it and kind of calculate the assessment and do the assessment of the risks. If you work, for example, in Department of State program that happens, you always have to, or it can be with other corporations, other source, you have to make sure that you communicate really well and you really have the feedback and you report back and say, these were the unexpected costs and we just want to make sure to update you and see how can we sort it out together. Did that help? Yes, yeah.
Okay, thank you. My name is Lanu from Indonesia. My question is, what I faced before I joined the legal organization, when we do it community, it's very difficult if they're asking about the legal of the community. So sometimes the government or the company asking where you're from, intervene in the community. So what is it legal and where's your tax and some kind of like that. So it's very difficult to get sponsor. What do you think about that? Thank you.
So I can speak from my experience, and my colleagues can probably speak more about this region because it might be a little bit different. So I've worked on projects from all around the world. And so when it was not in the United States, we had usually a legal advisor in our organization who was doing that. So that's kind of the fancy approach, right? You have someone in-house whose actually job is to make sure to answer those questions. The other one is that you can kind of think, that's a really great item to put in your budget and to say, okay, I will do this project and there might be circumstances that, yes, I will need legal help. And so then you will kind of build in consultant fee or some kind of help that you might need to even get online or otherwise. So I would say that will be just like one of the items on the budget that you can have in addition. Always it's good to do a lot of research, but there are definitely situations that you need professional help. And I will really not be hesitate to share that with my sponsor and to say, listen, I don't know answers to these questions, but I will find out and I will give you the options that you can have. I think there's nothing wrong with that to say, and I think the sponsor, at least in my case, will probably appreciate it even more because they say you're prepared, you really care, instead of saying, oh yeah, it'll be fine, because it's really important, right? It can really affect your project. So those would be my answers. Anybody else?
For that question, I would like to offer something. In this region, at least in Vietnam, if you don't have the legal status, that is very difficult to find funding. That's clear. And one option you can use that you have to align with an NGO or with an organization that has legal status. Some donors will take that into consideration. So, even before, try to raise funding or ask for funding, you better to do real study, research on the conditions. And don't go to those donors that do not get to the individual. Normally, individuals will have a lot of difficulties to get funding. So align you with an NGO or legal organizations.
I just want to clarify one thing because I feel the question we took it from different approaches. I understood it as that you have an NGO and then you had legal, kind of legal questions about the projects you're doing and you may be running other projects. So I would say if that's the case, then definitely getting advice, or communicating with the partner or the sponsor. And I completely agree with Lee, like if you are in the organization and you don't have the status and you don't have the legal status, that's something you have to sort out at first before you go out of the door to ask for people, ask
alliances, if you're an individual, if you're a student and you don't speak to your school and see whether they could be the entity to fund that project. And please approach individuals. I mean, in the world of entrepreneurship, there's 4 F's: family, friends, fools, and fanatics. There's also the angel investors, so the individuals who have some income who believes in your vision and would like to support you. At the end of the day, the program is driven by you. If they believe in you, whatever project and program you want to push forward to, with or without a legal entity, they would still support.
And I also wanted to say one of the things that's really important in finances with any organization, with any individual, is transparency. It's very important that you're transparent about how much you bring in, how much you spend, and why. And you know, maybe this project might come to you, honestly, and I had to learn that because I have a really hard time saying no, because I always get so excited about the projects and I really want to do them all and I want to help everyone, right? But I came to the point that I always try to really estimate a project and to say, is this really truly good fit for my organization? Is this really something that we can fund and really deliver what we promise? And can we be really transparent about the activities? And I think this is really important to follow because it's so much easier to say no to one project, and many times the sponsor will even appreciate you for that and explain the reasons why, because it will really give you the opportunity to find other projects that are even better fits. That makes sense. So for me, for example, if I will have 200 projects coming to me every year, and there will be projects that I kind of will probably make it happen, but I just didn't feel it, kind of on that level and say, no, I really feel that this will go in the direction that I will not feel as transparent, I will always say no. Or I would say I will really go for the project that is I can deliver it for 100%, and I can really be have that conversation with the sponsor or the donor about my activities.
I believe we'll also be uploading links of where sources of funding, international funding. For those in Malaysia, just come and approach me, whether you're any sort of causes, issues, if it's tech, even if you're trying to run an enterprise, I have the list of funding sources in Malaysia. For international funding, we'll be uploading it online.
So this is the list. I was actually wondering, since you have some experience of fundraising, from the list or any others, can you share which ones you like the most and why? Yes?
I like special events, or in my term, I call it guerrilla fundraising. Well, the most memorable fundraising experience that my NGO has done is the Hugs for Love. I go out with some 80 volunteers, and anyone who donates gets a free hug. So Malaysians love to hug. Yeah. And another memorable experience is busking. My NGO is very much independent. We don't, big corporation doesn't see us, so this is the only way we get money. So yeah, the second way is to play music. We busk around Jalan Bukit Bintang, KL people, Jalan Bukit Bintang and Rajalong, all this chowkit area. And Malaysians, they like music, so they can just give money easily. One day I can raise like around 1,500 ringgit, around $500. So can I ask one question? Okay, again, in a Malaysian setting, so I'm directing this to Ali or Nizamir. How do you get the attention of high-ranking CSR officials? Because normally, when we try to send in proposals, and what they usually do is, okay, ma'am, leave it in the counter, we'll forward it to the CSR department, and in the end, we won't get anything. Yeah. So, yeah.
Actually, I have one example that I can share with you. To get to those high-level CSR, what we try to do in my project, that those companies, they want to see the communities. They want to see where money goes, what money was spent for. So what we try to do is that before even fundraising, we had this community meeting. So we invite, different NGOs and communities, and we invite CSR kind of high level from different companies or from like a big banks like a Standard Chartered Bank, like a Citibank, and they can sit with communities and they can talk. And then later on they just come and give you money. I mean, they really, they don't want to see us as a, in between. They want to see the people who will get that money, who will do something for the communities, and try to build that link between those donors and the communities. That's one way.
For me, I act like a ninja. I cyberstalk them. The beauty about having websites and directories is that you actually have the names of the personnel who's in those foundations or in the senior management of these organizations. So Google them, find out where they will be speaking next. Go to those events, right? So as legal as you can keep it to, cyberstalk them and then understand them as people. What I think it was Herzl who mentioned, to get their engagement is to be able to know them personally, what are their interests like. And right now that information is your weapon.
I would say don't wait until you need the money. I really think that you really should look, and there are not many, fortunately or unfortunately. In your city there will be top organizations, and they really, I think it's important to build those relationships and involve them as much as possible in any of your activities, in any of your conversations, because you will build a relationship. And honestly, from CSR corporations or the departments, you would rather get money from someone who already knows you and knows your projects versus if you just send in the proposal and that's it.
Sorry, on the Malaysian context, you have that Saifuddin right here. His valuable resource of context is in his phone. Sorry,
Beautiful. So I think we should move to the next part.
Oh, that's one.
Let's kind of keep it in the end. We'll answer even more questions. Will that be okay? Yeah. So Zamir is going to speak about managing resources.
All right. When you think of resources, what's the first thing that pops in your mind? Money. People. Next up? Friends, people. I hope they're the same. I heard money and people. Anything else? Time. That's my favorite resource, time. Something you actually can't get back. You can lose friends and you can win them back. Especially if you ask them for too much money. Anything else? People, money, time. What? Skills. Okay, let's break people up into both skills and time. Okay? So people is a factor of skills and time. And then you got money. Any other resources? This is me crowdsourcing. Any other resources? Facebook in what sense? Social network. Okay. Correct. Brand. Another resource that many people don't actually think of is your brand, right? That reach that you have as well. As an NGO, if you have integrity and you're actually doing a really good job and you're delivering results, you have a brand value to yourself. So these are the 4 resources that I normally think about when I work within the Teach Malaysia framework. Money. What should I spend it on and what should I not spend it on? What are some of the things that you say, I definitely must spend money on this, otherwise I would not be able to move my project forward? Staff. What?
Yeah.
Staff cost. Besides that, no one else is spending money? Or?
I will find it. You can find volunteers too.
Anything else that people... Okay, maybe I'll flip it around. What are some of the things that you don't need to spend money? Maybe some examples that you guys are doing where you say, I didn't need to spend this money, I found it somewhere else. Venue, great, thank you very much. Venue is one example. Speakers, food. Okay, the list goes on. So the whole thing about once you do your budget, you actually then ask yourself, what can I actually get for free? Venue, budget, and what are the things that I have to spend on because no one else can provide me up to the quality I want. One example is that when I was first starting up Teach for Malaysia, people said, go and speak to advertising companies and PR companies. They'll be able to run a big campaign for you. So I went to speak to a few of them. And then what happened was, they all got really excited, oh, Teach Malaysia, this is what we're going to do. Because the advertising and PR companies, they want to win creative awards. So they got really gung-ho and they started doing something for us. But when it came out, they weren't really listening to us as a true partner. They just wanted to just use Teach Malaysia and then create something creative, and we didn't even use any of their campaigns. So I just want to share this example because sometimes, like, even though something seems free, you might as well pay for it.
Some of the things as well, like that you need to think about would be your accountant or your lawyer. The lawyers will do it for free sometimes, but your accountant, sometimes you just need to get it right, especially if you're going to scale. But if you're talking about grassroots projects, maybe not. Get a law accounting student to do it for you, right? In terms of maintaining existing resources and then evaluating those resources, it's all about like your return on investment. In terms of a venue, a free venue that you can get, do you actually have to spend 3 or 4 days trying to court that venue? And then even when you get that venue for free, it's never really for free because they expect so much out of you. Sometimes they might even ask you to change the program or invite 50 people to join the program when you only had a capacity of 40. You wanted to invite 40 of your own. So there's always a hidden cost behind free stuff as well. So everything you do, evaluate. But when it comes to resources, time is by far the most important thing to do. Time is something you cannot get back, and when it comes to time, it's easy to just say, I need to spend time doing this XYZ. Peter Drucker, a very famous thought leader, says, management is doing things right. Leadership is doing the right things. So really think very carefully about how you spend your time, whether it is when it comes to fundraising. That's an example that I gave earlier on. There's this one company that said yes, yes, yes to me for a very long time, but I never saw a check. And I kept on chasing after that. And I asked myself, is it worth chasing this company? Or should I be speaking to 20 different companies in the same amount of time? So that's the kind of questions that no one really has an answer for you except your own grey matter will come to it eventually. So resources, there's 4 things that you need to think about. Can someone shout out the 4 items again? Time. And then second, money. Third, skills and people. And last, branding. Okay, great. Thank you very much.
So the next one, it's recording, keeping, and grand reporting. We going to talk on that video.
Yeah, just very quick. We talk about money talks. Once you get money, what your talk about money? Book talks and evidence talks. You just think that once you get money, like $20,000 to do something, donors will come one day and ask, what money you spend for? What you are doing with that money? And then the record keeping and grant reporting is very important. I just want to say that, you need to remember 3 E. First, expenditure plan. We have approved from donors. You have expenditure plan, what activities, how much money, who is going to use it, and you have that plan in mind. And then the second is you have to check it regularly. So every week or every day. In the end of the week or in the end of the day, you must know how much money you already spent, how much you have still in the book, and how do you going to spend in the next week or next month. And the third E you have to remember is the evidence. For every spending, you need to keep the receipt, you need to keep the contract, you need to know who is running that activity for you. So all this, is very boring stuff. But without that, you cannot get continue to get money. Now my question to you is, who from you get a second funding second time from one donor? Anybody has a second funding from, yeah, one. Who else? 2, 3, 4. That's great. Because to get a second time funding, it's all about record keeping and grant reporting. You all have to think of yourself as manager. If tomorrow donor coming to ask how much money you still have, who spends that money, you must be able to report to them. You must have the record that to show them. Because the books talks, evidence talks. You must have receipt. You have to record in very proper way. And I would suggest that if you are going to have fundraising or development project, anyway you can get into the financial management course, please take one. Then that's all.
Thank you so much. Beautiful. And so now I would say, actually I did ask my colleagues in the Department of State, do you think someone will be interested to answer the questions that we didn't answer, how to deal with the sponsor, and what are the expectations, what is important from your side? Will there be anybody we can bring the mic to you? Yeah? Thank you so much. Guys, this is like answer I tried to get for 3 years when I started my job, and you are getting it like in your workshop, so you're so lucky. Yeah, you can come here or you can stay.
Great. So I'm going to have a couple of people over here. So I think you may have already known them and have introduced themselves. These are alumni coordinators. And go ahead and introduce yourself.
Hello, my name is Gương. I'm alumni coordinator of the U.S. Embassy in Hanoi, Vietnam.
Hello, I'm Richmond Nuez. I'm the alumni coordinator for the Philippines.
And so, tell me again the specific question that you'd like us to answer, or if people have questions, we can take questions directly as well.
Yeah, so I would say from my experience, and I think it'd be great to share, speak about what are the expectations if you are giving grants. What kind of reporting you prefer, or if you can say even kind of the best scenarios that you've seen over the projects you've been managing. And then I think one of our participants was asking how to deal with sponsors. So if you have any secrets or cookies or hacks, maybe we'll love to know that as well.
Sure. So what's really, one of the fun parts about my job is the fact that I have money that I can give out to people who have great ideas to make a big difference in their communities and across ASEAN. I love that. And so I do hope that you will go to your U.S. embassies with your great ideas that you come up with here and ask for money. Okay? So you can even tell them that. But the first thing is I want to say there are some, when we get some proposals in, that we do pretty much just throw in the trash. And I'll tell you why. One, if it was a competition and you didn't follow the instructions, then likely you could not qualify for those funds. And it would not be fair to people who did follow the instructions if we let you have the money. So one is very, very carefully look at instructions. Number two is and Lee, you did a great job talking about this, about the second time funding. If you had come to the U.S. Embassy previously and you didn't do your budget management, you didn't do your record keeping, and wasn't a good steward of the funds, it's less likely that we're going to fund you again. And we would prefer to fund people who are going to be very responsible stewards of the money. Okay? And now I'm going to turn it over.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Before I share with you some tips, some experience in monitoring alumni grant. I'd like to remind you of the role of alumni coordinator at the embassy. We are point of contacts for alumni, between the alumni and the embassy, and we are there to provide you with support, and we are there to help you get access to resources that the embassy can provide, or the resources that we can have some connection to link you with those resources. To be able to get funding or grants from the embassy, especially in especially for those for you as alumni of U.S. Government Exchange Program. First, I'd like to highlight that some principle that we usually take into consideration when we reviewing proposal or talking with you about ideas for project. First, money attract money. If you come with us with a project idea, and you show us that you or someone else is willing to fund partially of that project, your proposal would be more appealing to us. And remember, you would be the first donor of your project. Show us how many hours you will contribute to that. Show us what you will cost share yourself, or you cost share to that project. Then we will be more comfortable to give additional funding for you. Or on the other way, we cannot provide you with funds to cover all the costs of the project, but we can provide you with a small part of that, and you can continue to look for other donors to get enough funding to realize, to implement your project. The second thing I think you should be aware is that we have the U.S. government have a fiscal year which is different from a calendar year, and at the end of a fiscal year we usually have some money that may be available to fund projects that we think we should support. So if you come to us at the beginning of a fiscal year, it might not be easy to get funded.
Just to clarify, it's usually from October to October. Is that from September to October?
And it might be different from fiscal year of your respective country. So please be aware of that. Another thing you should bear in mind that we usually fund projects that support the embassy's priorities. We call mission goals. Each embassy have a number of priorities. So those projects support the embassy's priority will be more likely to get considered for funding. And it's not very difficult to learn those priorities. You can learn it from the embassy website. You can learn it through talking to us as alumni coordinators, or talking to American officers that you know from embassy. Here we are talking about cross-border projects, and to my understanding, we are here in the ASEAN region have many challenges in common, and it's very likely that American embassy in the region have some common priorities. So try to find those common priorities so that you can easier to get funded from not only one embassy but from multiple embassies in the region.
you are in the mainland Southeast Asia, you should be aware of the Low Mekong Initiative between the US government and the government and health. And if your project fall on one of the six areas that would make your project more interesting to the embassies in the region, in the alumni region. And in your proposal or in your talk with the embassy officer and staff, demonstrate your understanding of those priorities. So we know that your project will support our mid-strategic goals. You should also learn about each donor, each sponsor have a different funding requirement for each type of fund. For example, grants that are to be given to alumni have some specific requirements. For example, it cannot be used to cover meals. It cannot be used to cover overhead costs. I mean, cannot be used to hire a person for several months, to pay salary for a person for several months. And it is not also it's not advised, it's not encouraged to use to pay your honorarium. So in your budget proposal, in your budget sheet, you should not list those items in your budget when applying for alumni-related funding, because it would not be considered, it would not be covered. But always remember to list your contribution, your in-kind contribution, such as hours of work. The reason why we do not encourage pay honorarium, because we want to. It doesn't mean we underestimate your labor cost or your contribution, but we want to see it as a contribution. To see that your commitment to the project. And two other points I'd like to make. First, especially when you are, especially as you are young alumni, when you present a proposal or an idea to the embassy, please don't be too ambitious. You cannot change the whole world in a week or a year. So be ambitious and come up with something manageable. For example, if you ask for $100,000, it's very likely that we will not give money to a group of alumni who have never done a project before. So come up with something manageable or doable that we think you can do it successfully. Another thing you should also be aware is the sustainability of your project. We are very interested in seeing what is the long-term impact of your project. What happens if the funding ceases? What happens if you spend all the money that we give you? So we use, in my own experience, we usually, at the embassy of the US Embassy in Vietnam, we usually focus on projects that deal with capacity building, that train people skill or knowledge, instead of giving them, for example, if you train often children with disability, for example, if you train them skill or knowledge, it's better than giving them toys or books or just an example of capacity building. Or we also interested in supporting projects that promote awareness, that enhance understanding of, for example, environmental pollution or human trafficking. We also want to support those projects that have a multiplier effects, like train-the-training projects or networking projects so that the small amount of money that we can give to you can have long-term and multiplier effects. Those are some.
That's wonderful. Thank you so much.
Some of those are Vietnam specific.
I would like to remind everybody is that all of you are alumni. You went through a U.S. government exchange program, right? So what makes you different from all the other youth out there trying to come up with a program or a project? Is access to resources. All right, so what the State Department did is, actually, I've only become an alumni coordinator for the past 2 years, and most of my other colleagues, the alumni coordinators of other countries, have only stepped in as coordinators for 3 years ago. So you see the State Department is actually putting strong emphasis in the power of alumni. We've been sending exchange students out to the United States, and now we see that our alumni have great ideas, great projects, and the State Department is listening. So they actually came up with a website, it's alumni.state.gov, and I hope that everybody's actually a member of. And it's actually a website, social network website for all of our alumni to network. It's an exclusive website only for those people who went through the USG exchange program. So one great resource that you can actually find there in the alumni.state.gov website is what we call the Alumni Engagement Innovation Fund. Have you all heard about the AEIF? Alright, so that's one great resource that you actually have an advantage of applying for. So not everybody can apply for that, except you have to be an alumni in order to submit a project proposal. The Alumni Engagement Innovation Fund is something that the State Department does every year, where a single alumni or a group of alumni can submit a project proposal and ask for as much as $25,000. Yeah, this year we actually received a lot of our project proposals from our alumni all over the world. In the Philippines, I just saw recently that we actually have like 40 great projects, and these are projects that you can actually see in the website. So again, what the key here is for you to actually review what your resources are. See what you actually can, look at what the things that you can see and benefit from being a member of the exclusive alumni, international exchange alumni website. And then you can start from there. And again, I mean, we are alumni coordinators. The State Department did not actually hire us for nothing. We're there to be your contact person. If you have any questions, feel free to get in touch with us. And so we can either connect you with the right grant application, or we can connect you with the network of other alumni who are more senior, who are more experienced, if you have to need them to become your speakers, or if you have to need them to become mentors, or just whatever it is that you think that you might need help with in coming with a program or a project.
Beautiful. Thank you so much for the excellent. Beautiful. So we'll start really. So I wanted to make last point, and then we'll go into the time for your own activity to build your little budget and build a fundraising goal, especially something that may help you for your phase in your project. So I just want to summarize, budgeting and fundraising is probably the most exciting things in the world. I always kind of think of that like cleaning teeth every day. Do you clean your teeth every day? I hope so. And so it's the same thing with budgeting and fundraising. It's something that you need to do pretty much every day. But it really pays off, and if you do it right, it really can kind of become something really positive, because you can save a lot of money, you can manage your money properly, then it can also bring you more money for other projects that you would like to do. So I would say, don't be afraid, do your homework, and never give up. Beautiful. So now, if I will go to the page, and you also have it on your PowerPoint, is the basic concept of the budget. And I'd like you to try create a little budget for your program that you are fishing for, and also to think of what kind of fundraising activities will be good for you, what will be good be included in your fundraising plan for your project. And we'll go around, so if you have any questions, we can definitely answer those as well. So we have around 20 minutes, and then we will go to the next point of the program. Thank you very much, and thanks so much to Professor.